has been 20 years since Jaguar launched the XJ220. 20 years in which it has become perhaps the most maligned supercar in history. Victim of some half-truths, some hard truths, and some downright lies. I think the time has come to set the record straight. I remember road testing it as if it were yesterday. We borrowed Tom Walkinshaw's own company car, blasted it cross-country to Wales, flung it over the mountains, let it reduce a Ferrari 512 TR to tears, wrung its neck on the test track, and even inadvertently crashed it, trying to get to the bottom of its abilities. Frankly, it blew our minds. So, let's see if it still can. To understand exactly what the XJ220 was in 1992, you have to understand where the supercar was then. There was no McLaren F1, that was still a couple of years away. There was no Bugatti EB110, no Ferrari F50. In fact, the only car that had ever done 200 miles an hour was the F40, and that only just. And then along comes the XJ220, and in a flash, it does 213 miles an hour. This car, driven by Andy Wallace at Fort Stockton, did 213 miles an hour. The world had never seen anything like it. Think about the numbers. When we road tested this car 20 years ago, it did 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. Now that probably doesn't sound too great these days, but think about how it did it. It did it without sticky tyres, without traction control, without launch control, without flappy paddles, without four-wheel drive. It had nothing other than pure grunt. Does it feel fast today? No. It feels intergalactically quick. When those two turbos cut in, you need to be pointing in a straight line and hanging on. Even by 2012 standards, that is ridiculous. So why is the XJ220 so fast? It has 542 horsepower, which is a lot of power by any standards, but these days it's the kind of number that we're quite used to seeing. But we're used to seeing it in the context of a car weighing maybe 17, maybe 1800 kilograms. This thing weighs under 1500 kilograms. Plus the colossal torque of that V6 3.5 litre twin turbo engine is what unlocks the secret of this car's power. And it wasn't just quick in a straight line. You have to remember that the XJ220 came right on the back of Jaguar going back to Le Mans and winning it twice in 1988 and 1990. So the lessons that were learned on the track were applied to this car. It's not a Group C car in disguise like the XJR15 was, but in terms of its suspension, in terms of lots of its aerodynamics, it has that technology in it. So couple that light weight with that technology, plus a 345 section rear tyre, and this is a car that will go around corners at speeds most modern cars wouldn't even look at today. Of course, the XJ220 is not a car without any problems at all. It is colossally wide, which on these British A and B roads is a bit of an issue. The brakes really aren't up to the performance of the car, even when they've been modified and worked upon as those in this car have been. You really can't see out of it. The lock is terrible. And as for the engine, well, I mean, it certainly gets the job done, but the noise it makes, it sounds more like an inner city riot than something that you stick in the back of a supercar. So we're back. We've brought the XJ220 back to Don Law's place, where, as you can probably see, more of these cars are looked after than everywhere else in the world put together. Now, Don reckons the price of a good XJ220 starts at about £165,000, although you can get them for less. Now, if you think about that, that's probably less than half what you pay for an F40 these days, probably rather less than a tenth of what you pay for a McLaren F1. And what does that buy you? Well, it buys you a British supercar that is beautiful, fast, rare, and, as I've just been reminding myself, still absolutely epic to drive out there on the road. So what does this mean? Well, to me it means one thing and one thing only. It is time for the XJ220 finally to step out of the shadows and assume its place among the ranks of the great supercars, not just at its time, but of any time.